Okay, so yesterday, good morning. Yesterday, we learned the Mishnah that tells us that someone could lend money, somebody could lend money to a Kohen, a Levi, or an Oni, and the way he'll get paid back is he'll have enough trumas to cover the loan, and he'll withhold the truma Meiser or Meiser Oni that would have otherwise went to the loiva. He, as the malva, will keep it. That's what the Mishnah tells us, and the Mishnah tells us that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up with the last Mishnah. The new Mishnah that we have over here on Daf Lamed Aleph is someone who wants to be able to travel to all the different places where he has assets, and he has tevel everywhere, and he has to be misakin that tevel. So what he did is he created a warehouse back home full of tevel, and then wherever he would go, he would say, the amount of truma that I need to be mafresh from this that I'm eating here in New York, let's say I have to be mafresh a pound of truma in order to be misakin this that I have here in New York. The warehouse in Toronto, where I have payers, that's going to be the truma for it. Or huadin, if it's cash, lagabi being mechalel meiser shenia. So the halacha is, if you come back and you see your warehouse, things were spoiled, or it got ruined, or got messed up, we learned that you have to be choshesh meis leis. And we actually said that there's two pshatim in Rabbi Lozer who says you have to be choshesh meis leis. The more kuladik approach is that you have to assume that for the last 24 hours, anything that you were mafish was no good. But anything prior to 24 hours ago, you can assume would be a good hafrasha. But we had another pshat, Rabbi Lozer, that me'es leis means you could only assume that 24 hours after you placed the pairs into the warehouse, for 24 hours, you could assume that they were good. But anything that you were mafish, trumas, and ma'isfus on, from that group of pairs in the warehouse, from 24 hours after they were placed, all that is assumed to be a suffix, and you'd have to be mafish, trumas, and ma'isfus on them again. And then Rabbi Yehuda told us a new idea, that when people used to keep wine to be able to be mafresh it for other wine of tevel that they had, they would have to be boidik the wine 3 times a year. Bekidum shel motzoi achad, the first wind that came motzoi sukkis, and then motzos smadar, when the fruit starts to develop a little bit. V'shas knisas mayim b'boiser. Rashi brings down 2 pshatim of knisas mayim b'boiser. Either it means where the fruit is big enough that if you squeeze it, you get some juice out of it. The other pshat was there was a time in the year where they chopped up the unripened pears and they made it into some type of puree. Tosfos actually points out that the Mishnah calls it mayim b'boiser, which would indicate that the juice that's coming out of boiser is not yayin, it's mayim. Well, would there be a problem of yayin esech? So Tosfos argues that even though it says mayim, there would be a problem of yayin esech, especially since, how do you know at what point it transitions from mayim to yayin? We're not bikin, and therefore Tosfos says you have to treat even this premature juice that comes out of the premature pears, that also has to be considered as yayin, for the purposes of stam yain and for yain esach.
So
okay,
why these times? Because in these times it could get sour. What's the reason?
No, I assume it's just evenly split. I assume it's evenly split during those times.
This one Rasha says because then it gets hot. So then maybe it's a hot wind.
I don't know if that's the reason, because the rest of the 2 are in the winter. Smadar and Knisas Mayim are in the winter. I think it just means time lapsing, but I might be wrong. I don't know. That's a good order. I don't know the answer. Okay, so let's see the Gemara on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, which is where we're going to start from. Okay, gewaltig. So that was the shayla that we had. we sort of left off by the first set of two dots. So I'm going to start from there. Divrei Rabbi Lozer. Amar Rabbi Lozer. Rabbi Lozer the Amoira, as Rashi says, Rabbi Lozer the Amoira was Rabbi Lozer ben Pedas. He commented on Rabbi Lozer ben Shomua, who is the Rabbi Lozer in our Mishnah. And he said, Chalukan Olav Chaver of all Rabbi Lozer. Rabbi Lozer's Chaverim argued on him, and they said that up until the last time you checked, you have to assume that it was bad. The Tanan we learned, mikvah shenimdat v'nimtza chaser. If a mikvah was measured and you found out that it was chaser, kol tahayir shenas al gabav lumafreya, bein b'rishus hayochid, bein b'rishus hayabim temeyos. They're vadei tamei. So Zok Gemara, pshita dechalut. Of course they're arguing. They say quite clearly that all the tires are tamei from day one. Maybe even when those Tanoim said Lamafreya, they just meant 24 hours. They didn't mamish mean all the way back till the last Bedika. So Mashvalon, that is what they mean, and therefore they're arguing. It's interesting to note that by the halach of mikvah, it says Tameyois Vadai. With our shaila, with the Truma, that he was mafresh, we have to be choshid that maybe the pairs went bad, but it's not vadai. What is the difference? So there are those who say that mikvah, every time someone goes into the mikvah, he's taking out some water with him. So because of that, a mikvah is choshev v'oimid the moment you measure it, because as people use it, there's going to be less and less water. Therefore, there might have been a greater chash. Although you can argue that pairs get old too. I'm sorry?
Water also evaporates.
Yep, that's right. And that's it. It evaporates as well. So let's look at these times where they are boidik the wine. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Tana Bekidum Chag, this wind that comes after Sukkot, Shalt Kufa. That's only if it's Shalt Kufa, meaning if it's already in the winter season. But if it's still the summer season, because it didn't make a nibayar, so things are off balance, then you would not be boidik. You're only boidik if the summer season is over already. And Rashi speaks out, shel tkufa, and for nichlas at tkufas tishrei, avol mashchat tkufas tamaz at kan loy. So we only boidik if it's already winter time, or it's already fall time. I guess that's like Chaim said. That might be a reason why we're concerned at that point. Okay, Zog to Gemara weiter. When also you boidik? Lefnei hazera, before people plant. Why before people plant is a good. I'm sorry, Tanya Rabbi Yehuda. I'm sorry, I didn't read the Gemara right. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda begimel prokim moichrin es atfua. There's 3 times in the year where you sell tfua. Lefnei hazera, before you plant. Ubishas hazera. And as Tosfos says, towards the end of the planting season, ubeprois haPesach, and 15 days before Pesach. So that's when you sell tefua. Now you need to ask, what do you mean that's when you sell tefua? You own something, you should be able to sell it whenever you want. So Rashi tells us that what it means is, actually the Gemara will tell us. So let's wait till the Gemara asks the kasha, and we'll see what's up is now you could sell whenever you want. A person has a right to sell whatever he wants whenever he wants. Okay, 3 times of the year you sell wine for price of Pesach, 15 days before Pesach, for price of Tzeres, 15 days before Shavuos, for price of Hachag. The shemen, and when do you start selling oil? Mayat Tzeres for Elech Shavuos and on. Lamai Hilchasan. Lagabi, what do I need to know? You could sell. Anyone could sell. What does it mean, l'shutfim? Meaning, let's say I'm a shutf for somebody, and I want to sell our product. I feel now is a good time. We could get good profit for our product. Let's sell it. But my shutf is not there. I have to ask him permission. I can't sell without his permission. But during these times, being that there are times where there's a much higher demand for the product. For instance, l'fnei zera. Right before people plant, everyone's desperate for seeds. There's a run on seeds that makes things go up. The other la'achar zera is at the end of the planting season when people say, "Oh, I'm short on seeds." Once again, there's a run on seeds. So that's why naturally seeds are going to cost more. That's why it's a good time to sell. So the halach is one shutuf is allowed to sell even without permission of the other shotev, because this by nature is a good time. And even if it turns out that he didn't sell for the best price, he could have done better. It's not a tiny, he's not mechuyev, he's not liable because he sold at a time where typically prices would be high. Same with the wine. When is there a run on wine before Yom Tov? That's why you sell. Tosfos is a different shot. Tosfos says, let's say two people are involved in an investment, and this happens all the time, and they're getting a good offer for the property, and some of the partners want to sell. Some of the partners say, let's keep it, we can make more money. So when could I insist that my partner sell? At a time where we know we're getting a good price. So these are all times where we know we're getting a good price. There I have a right to force my partner that I want to liquidate the investment and I want to split the money. Now we're going to learn all about Ruach. Today's Gemara is full of hot air. And we're going to see in just a minute. Mikan ve'elech. What happens after these times? After these times that we say you can sell, my amarava kol yoima perkehu. Once those demand times occur, you can always continue to sell. Zok the heilige pasuk. Vayihi kizroach hashemesh. This is a pasuk in Yoina. The sun was shining bright. Vayiman elikim ruach kodem chadishas. Rebbeinu Shalom prepared a eastern wind that was chadishas. What is chadishas? My chadishas of Gemara. Omer Rabbi Yehuda. Chadishas is miloshen charisha, like plowing. B'shah shemin hasheves. When this eastern wind blows, it blows with such strength. It creates so many waves and ripples in the yam, it almost looks like a plowed field. Omalei Rabbah, it doesn't make sense to say that that's taich in the pasuk, because this pasuk leads in to the next pasuk, which says Fatach Hashemesh al Roish Yoina v'Yisal. We're trying to build up how it was so hot, Yoina couldn't take to eat. What does a strong blowing wind have to do with introducing the fact that it was very hot? Dr. Gemara. Zok to Gemara, Amar Li Rabba, Ihaki, Hani Dechsiv, Betach Hashemesh, Al Roish Yoina v'Yisalef. What does that have to do with it? El Amar Rabba, this wind must be an explanation of why it became so terribly hot. El Amar Rabba b'Shashim and Hasheves, when the eastern wind blows and it's hot, if it's hot, it has such power, Mishasekes, Kol haruchos mipanel. Even if the winds from all the other directions are coming in cold, the power of the eastern wind, if it's hot, will make everything hot. And that's the Lashon Charishas, it quiets down, it blanks out all of the effect of the other winds. Behind the Chsiv, and that's shot in the pasuk that it says, Asher begodecha chamim, your begodim are warm. Why are your begodim warm? Bahashket eretz midorim. When the land becomes warm and quieted from the southern winds might make it cooler, but the southern winds is hishkit. It's quieted. It's quieted and eclipsed by the powerful wind that comes from the east. Amar Tachlifa bar Rav Chisda.
Durham is not the east.
I'm sorry.
Durham
is south. Durham is south. But the Hashkot Eretz with Durham, the southern wind will be quieted because it will be overwhelmed by the eastern wind. When are your begodim warm? B'shah shehishkit Eretz midorim. Why? Shebishah sheminasheves mishaketes kalaruchos mipaneha. So Rashi. When the eastern wind blows in the heat, it's very hot, and it is mevatel the cold coming in, all the cold fronts from all the other sides. That's our shaila. When the cool air of the ruach teremis gets quieted down, umihu hamashkita. What is quieting it down? Ruach mizrachis mashtikasa. It's the ruach mizrachis that quiets down, that smothers the wind of the south. Shabashashim nasheves ruach mizrachis mishasekes kol haruchos. Gewaltig. So we're learning
the
here.
Sudan wind is the cold wind, and the Mizrach wind is the hot wind.
If it's hot, it's not always hot, because Rashi says specifically, "B'shas hachoyim hicham ha'moed." But lav dafka is it always hot. But when it is hot, it's very hot.
Wind.
I'm sorry?
It's a stronger wind.
Yeah, it's strong. It's correct. So Zok to Gemara Vayter. Now we have a very interesting story. Rav Huna Rav Chisda Yafsi, they were sitting down together. Chalif Azul Geneva Alayu. The gentleman by the name of Geneva walked by. Geneva was the fellow who we learned about a little while ago who would bother Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva had a shaila. If there's something bothering me and I could be malshin on him to the Malchus, am I allowed to do it? Am I allowed to? And the person that he was talking about who was bothering him was Geneva. Geneva was a big Talmid Chacham, but he wasn't such a big Balmidas, and he was a big Bal Machlokes. So they wanted to know, this big Talmid Chacham is coming. So the shaila was, Omer Chad L'Chaver Neikum Mikamei. Should we stand up in his honor to Bar Oryonu because he is a Talmid Chacham? His friend answered him, Chas v'sholem, Mikamei Palga Neikum. Should we stand up for a Bal Machlokes? Also, in the meantime, he came towards them. So there's a whole big shaila. If you have a Talmid Chacham who's doing bad things, he's a Bal Machlokes, are you going to be mechaber him? So it's mashma from the Rambam that a Talmid Chacham should not be mechabed, because in our Gemara they were Talmid Chachamim. A Talmid Chacham should not be mechabed a Talmid Chacham who's a Bal Machlokes. But the shaila is, what about a regular Amoritz, a regular person, or a regular lay person? Do they have to have respect for a Talmid Chacham who's a Bal Machlokes? So Rav Moshe declares that could be they do, and he says there, but the problem is by giving such a person respect, you're validating him, and that's a big problem. So Rav Moshe said maybe when he comes into the room, you should stand up for him, but you should make it look like you're standing up to go get a sefer. So you'll be Mekayim of being Mechaber Talmid Chacham, but you won't show him any type of solidarity. But there is a shaila about if you're allowed to be mechabed such a person. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. So what happened was he came to them. I see you're schmoozing and learning. What are you talking about? Amrulei beruchos. They said we're talking about ruchos. This is the sugi of ruchos that we're talking about now. The different winds, some of the different things. But there are those who learn that when they said ruchos, they were talking about him. What do you mean they're talking about? How could they say that? How could they lie? They were talking about him. They were having a discussion whether or not they should be honoring him. So what's talking about ruchos? So there are those who learn ruchos means ruach kol sheruach abriyos noichimenu ruach hamokim noichimenu. That ruach is what we were talking about. I believe Chaim, you told that to me yesterday. Oh, so that's the ruchos that we're talking about. So they weren't lying. They weren't lying at all. Okay, so let's see what the Gemara says weiter. So what was the Dalad? There's 4 winds that blow every day. And the Ruach Tzafonis blows with all of them. If it wasn't for the Ruach Tzafonis, it has a very important purpose. The world would not be able to withstand even 1 hour without the Ruach Tzafonis. The Ruach Deroimis Kashmi Kulam, and the Ruach Deroimis is the toughest one of all. So the Ruach Tzafonis, Rashi tells us, is like Chamov, like Chenenes. It's a perfect wind. It's not too hot. It's not too cold, and therefore it sort of sweetens up. It improves the effect of all the other winds that are coming.
Takes away all the pollution.
Gewaltig. Ben Netz, Mamida, if it wasn't for the Malach that was also Kenetz, I think that's as an eagle. If it wasn't for this Malach who has these big wings to protect that wind, the world from that wind, the whole world would be Chorev. Shenemar, it says, this is when Hashem was talking to Eoiv, Pashup shot in the Pasuk is, Hamibinascha, Yaver Netz, Yivers Kedofav, L'Teiman. Do you think it's because of your wisdom, your chachma, that gave the koyach to an eagle to spread its wings? It's the Rebbeinu Shalom's chachma. It's not your chachma. But the way we're dashing it is Hamibinascha Yaver Netz. The Netz is referring to the Malach Netz. Yivers Kanaf of Lateiman. He'll spread his wings out to protect us from the Ruach, the Remes. Rabbi Reb Nachman Yitzchak Hava Yasvi. Yes.
Why would Hashem create a wind that requires a malach to defend us from?
Because it probably has good properties to it as well, but it has damaging properties. So I guess they
why would he create something that would destroy the world? It doesn't make sense.
The truth is, I'm not qualified to answer that question. I'm not in the world creation business, so I'm not qualified at all to answer. But I'm sure it was. I'm sorry?
He says Nate's is a hawk, not an eagle.
A hawk. Okay, thank you.
He's an angel friend.
Okay, Shkoyach.
When he needs it.
Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. Okay, Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. Rava Reb Nachman Yitzchak Hav Yasvi, they were sitting down. Have a Chalif v'Ozil, Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov. Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov was coming by in a wagon, in a chariot. Yosef Beguhaka de Dahava, he was in a gold chariot, and Uparis Alei Sarbel the Kars, he was wearing a beautiful beggar of Tchelas. So they couldn't tell who he was, but it obviously looked like somebody very important, maybe someone from nobility. So Rava Ozil Agabe, Rava went to greet him, because Rava needed him, maybe Rava needed parnasa from him, so Rava had to go give him some respect. But Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak loy ozil lagabe. He didn't. You know why? Because he said, Dilma me'inchi the Reish Galusa, maybe from the Reish Galusa, Rava tzarchlu, Rava needs them. I don't need them. So interesting, Rashi says over here, why did Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak say he didn't need it? Because Reb Nachman, we know, the Gemara says Reb Nachman was the son-in-law of Devei Nesiah. So he was related. So he didn't have to lecture for them. He was family. And which Reb Nachman was it? Zok Rashi, it was Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak, and that's why he was connected to the Nesias. He didn't have to go. However, Tosfos says it's not Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak. He brings Kamarayas. And Tosfos says, in fact, it was Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov that was the Chasna of the Nesiah. But Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak here didn't go because maybe he was a wealthy guy. He didn't need them, but not that he was the Chasna of the Nesiah.
That's why he says here, from the Urich, that the one that was having the ride wasn't Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov, it was Reb Acha Bar Yaakov.
Okay, so he changes the Gersa. Okay, so Zok to Gemara, I don't need them. Zok to Gemara, Kidchaza, the Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov Hava, when they saw that this was the Godel Hador, the big tzaddik and Talmud Chacham, Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov, so then they both jumped up. Even Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak went to be mechaberim. Ozol Agabei and Goldi Ladare. Reb Nachman Bar Yaakov had rolled up his sleeve. You know why? Because it was very hot. Omar Shadi Noshev. The wind, Shadi, is blowing, and this wind really the eastern wind is not called Shadi. Tosfos tells us it's actually the western wind, but he was referring to it, or the southern wind actually, but he was referring to it as Shadi because it was bringing in so much heat and it was so powerful.
Like a shep, no? Like a demon.
Yeah, there are those who learn that that's shot as well. It's correct. So it's either he's referring to like a demon, or it could be he was just referring to the name of that wind. There's different. We're trying to say different things. Amarava, Hachi Amarav, Isham Apelas boy. This eastern wind is so powerful it will cause a woman to miscarry. Ushmul Amar Afilu Margolis Shabayam Mirakeves. If you have like pearls or oysters or pearls, it'll rot them out. The wind somehow impacts even something below the surface of the earth, of the water. Normally, shikvazera is good for 3 days, but if a woman is exposed to this type of wind, it will impact the shikvazera. They all learned this halacha, their halacha that they're saying about the power of this wind. They actually all learn it from the same pasuk. What does the pasuk say? And I'm going to look. I'm going to look in where it quotes the pasuk, because the pasuk, our Gemara doesn't bring down the full pasuk. So let's look it up where we have at the side of the Gemara. It says Kihu ben Achim Yafri. Now the Gemara doesn't right now address what this means. Kihu ben Achim Yafri, but pasuk shot in the pasuk is we're talking about the part of Klal Yisrael that was Yisrael, not Yehuda. We're talking about the Yisrael, and they live together and they prosper in at the edge of the water. And Yovei Kadim Ruach Hashem, Hashem's going to punish them, and he's going to bring it from Midbar. Oil, it'll bring them v'yevish Mikari, it'll dry them out. the Yechrav Mayanoi, and it'll dry out its source. Who yishta oitzer kol kli chemda. It'll mess up the oitzer of every beautiful keli. So the Pasuk Pashas is talking about an oynish that was happening on Klal Yisrael. But we're darshaning the Pasuk Yovei Kodem, referring to the eastern wind, Ruach Hashem Midbar, Oila v'yevesh mekayrai, v'yechav mayanai, hu yishse oitzer kol kli chemda. And this is how the different Amoraim darshan the Pasuk to tell us different features of this wind. So Zokt the Heilige Gemara, Yovesh mekayrai, zu mekayra shalisha. That's the makar of a woman, meaning it's going to cause her to have a miscarriage. Then it says, the Yechav Mayanoi, Zeshich Vazer Shebemeisha. The Ma'ayin, the source, spring, that's referring to the Shech Vazera. Hu Yishasa Eitzer, Kokli Chemda, Zu, Margola Shabayam. That's referring to Margola Shabayam. So that's how you see the damaging effect of this wind. Omar Rava. Rava said that you know who could be Medaik these psukim so well? Adi Surah, who did Kra. They're Medaik psukim very well. And some Rishonim will learn that he's commenting on what we just heard. And some of them are commenting, are him asking, since you're so good at being Medaik a pasuk, I'm going to ask you what the beginning of the pasuk refers to. My Kiu Ben Achim Yafri. What is that referring to? Amar Rava, Zokt Rava, it's referring to, let's go on to the next daf. Sometimes you have a shovel. This is talking about an axe or hoe, but you have a shovel that goes into the metal receptacle of the blade. That's really tight in there. But this wind comes and dries it out and will actually loosen that. Or so I feel shufta b'kifuna demara rafi will become loose. Even a nail in the wall will become loose because it will dry out from the heat of the wind. Even a reed that's woven into a basket will dry out. Okay, so we learned all about Ruach, Baruch Hashem, and we finished the third parak. Now we're going to get into a new subject, shlichus. Someone sent a get to his wife with a shlich leilacha, and he decided he doesn't want it. He wanted to change his mind, so he runs after the shliach to say, "Don't do it." And he reached the shliach, or instead of reaching the shliach himself, he sent a messenger. Go quickly and go tell the shliach and tell him, "Get shenasati loch botalu." The get that I gave you should be botal. I'm reclaiming. I'm reversing my get. I'm reversing the shlichus. We'll see what it is. If it's reversing the get or reversing the shlichus, so the halach is harei a bottle. It's bottle. The shliach can no longer give the get. It won't be valid. What happens if kidem et halishtai? He didn't go to the shliach, but he got to his wife before the shliach reached his wife. Again, harei a bottle. It will be bottle. But if the get already reached her hand, and then he came to be mevatel it, shuv eina yachal avatlai. So everyone's going to ask us, Pashut, he gave her the get already. That's what the Gemara is going to ask. It used to be that if someone wanted to be mevatel a get that he sent, he would just go to a bezdin locally and would be mevatel it. But that was a huge problem because he could be mevatel a get technically, and she'll never know about it. And the shliach will give her the get, and she'll think she's migureshes, and she's really not. So therefore, his kin Rabbi Gamliel Azaken Shaloyu Oisen Ken Mipnei Tikun Olam, you're not allowed to be mevatel a get unless it's in front of them. Talk to Gemara. Unless you told the shliach, or you told the isha, but you can't just do it in front of the bezdin because they might not find out about it. Talk to Gemara. Higi oi loikatani. Higi oi means you special ran after him to catch that shliach. It doesn't say that. El higia. Higia has a connotation of afilu mamela. You happen to have bumped into him, and the chiddush is, if you're running after him, then surely you want to be mevatel to get. But if you just bumped into him, and that's why you told him be mevatel to get, why is that any different? Because there, I'm not. You could argue I don't really want to be mevatel to get. I bumped into him, so I told him what I told him. Maybe I'm just trying to chopper my wife, and that's why I was mevatel. If I went with a vengeance to go catch the guy, then I'm serious. But if I start met the shliach and then I told him, maybe I'm just cheppering. Why does the Tana need to tell us the same halacha when you sent the shliach to pursue your first shliach? Maybe the second shliach doesn't have the same strength as the first shliach to be mevatel again. Kamash malan. Then the third case of the Mishnah is Kadamu Etzalishta. He went to his wife. Alamali. Why do I need that case in the Mishnah? When will you not say that he didn't really mean it? He just meant to chapper her. That's only Hanamili Lishliach. That's only if he's telling the Shliach, he's not playing games. Avalidov, he's telling it to herself. He's just trying to chapper her. Kamash Malon, that even when he's telling her, he means it seriously. He wants to be mevatel the shlichus. What's the chiddush in that case? He wouldn't mitch himself to run after her just to chepper her. So if he's running after her to catch her, clearly he wants to be mevatel again. If he's just sending a shliach, no skin off his back. He doesn't care. If the shliach is matriach. Maybe maybe when he's sending a shliach to her to tell her that the get's bottle, maybe he's just cheppering her. Kamash Malon that it's real. If he gave her a get and the get was chal, so why in the world should he be able to be mevatlet? He was running after her, screaming, "I don't want to get, I don't want to get." So even though he didn't reach her quickly enough, he didn't reach her on time, but it was so clear that that's what he wanted to do. You might think that it's Igloi Mislam Afreya, that he was Mavatal to get earlier. Kamash Valon, that until he gets to her, it's not a get. Toisvis Grada learns that this is their Abana. Here you wouldn't say Dvarm Shabalav Dvarm, and here in fact it would be a good bittul. And it's only a Chomer Derabon Machmer that it should be a good get. The Tosh asked, could Rabbanan be machmer and make it into a get? So Tosh brings right that they could. Tan Rabbanan, Batelhu. He said the word of Batel. Now we're focusing on whether these words mean it should become Batel, or I'm testifying that it already is Batel. So Batelhu, or EF Shiboy, the verb Kayaman. Because those clearly mean that I'm being Mavatelet now. However, Pasalu, if I say the get is Pasal, or ain't a get, it's not a get, Lo Yamar Klum. Why? Because there I'm saying that this get is possible, but it's not possible. I'm not saying that I'm puzzling it. I'm saying it is possible. I'm testifying about it that it's possible, but in fact it's not. Dr. Gemara, Batelhu is a good lashon of the future. So frankly, Gemara, remember the Batel lashon, the Liftel Mashma? Are you telling me that when I says Batelhu, it means it should be bottle in the future, and it doesn't mean that I'm saying it's bottle already from the past? Because that's how you have to say if you're going to say that bottle who works for him to be mevatel again. The Amar Rabba Bar Eva told us in another case where batelu means it's already bottle in the past, because he said over Allah the name of Rabbi Sheshes, Ramilo Amar Rabba Bar Eva, Mikabel Matana. What happens if someone receives a gift and this person doesn't want the gift? So Amar La'achar Shabbasa Matana Liyoda. After you already have the matana, you said Matana Zu Mivutelis. This matana should become bottle. Or T bottle, it should become bottle, or EF Shibo, I don't want it, Lo Yamar Klum. Because once you're Makabal Matana, it's yours. You can't just undo it. You can't undo your acceptance of that Matana. And Rashi says the nafkamina is that if someone, even if you give it back now to the person who gave it to you, if you owed somebody money, that's mishubah to him and he has a right to collect it. However, if he used a different lashon, if he used a lashon of betelahi, then or Eina Matana, then Dvar of Kayaman. So you see, when he says Betelahi, he means it was bottled from before, meaning I never was Makabal the Matana. So you see from here by Matana, the Betelahi is in past tense. I was never Makabal it. Yet when it comes to Gittin, we say Bottalu means I want to be Mevatlet now. So what is it? Alma Bottle Meikar Mashma. You see from the case of Matana, that Bottle means he's saying something about the past. Amar Abaye, the truth is. I'm sorry?
Bottle is Lucian now.
No, bottle here or betelahi. What's the difference? Bottle who and betelahi is exactly the same lotion. But a matan is lotion the cave and it gets lotion zocher. The bottle who and betelahi is exactly the same. So Zok to Gemara, Amar Abaye, in fact, this lotion means both. It could mean past tense and it could mean present tense. Oops. Second.
By the last 3 lines.
Okay. Dr. Moore, bottle shtei lashonis mashma. Bottle can mean both. Mashma the bottle, umashma the liftil. It could be mashma that it's bottle already, which is how we're teaching it by matana, and it's also mashma the liftil that it should be bottle now, which is how we're teaching it legabe gittin. Gabe get, by get, lishna de Muhammad kamar. If a person says bottle who, pashtus, he's trying to be mevatel get. If he's trying to be mevatel get, he has to mean that I want it to be bottle now, moving forward. But gabe matana, when someone uses this same lotion by matana, he also wants to be mevatel matana. So lishna de mahani beika amar, he's going to use a lotion that will work, meaning that I was never mekabel the matana yet, and therefore it's not mine. Amar by nektina we learned shliach matana hareu k'shliach haget. A shliach matana is just like a shliach haget, meaning if I send a matana with somebody and I say deliver this matana to Pliny, I could be chayzer. Why can I be chayzer? Why isn't he zoiche in it on behalf of the makabel? Bishlam haget, it's a chayvla, so he won't be able to be zoiche in it for. But why can't he be zoiche in the matana? It's a raya that when someone says hoylech zela Pliny, take this matana to Pliny, he bedavka means I don't want you to be koinit for him. I'm not letting you be koinit. I only want it to be nikna to the makabel when he actually gets it, when you deliver it to him, and therefore he can back out as well. Ravina Ashkecheli Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak the Toli v'Koi be'Ivr the Dasha. Ravina met Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak, who was leaning and standing, hanging around by the door. V'Komi boyelei, and he had the following question: Batel mahu. If you say batel who, we already said it can mean both ways. But what if you just use the word batel by itself? Maybe that means only one or the other. Rashi actually says that it doesn't mean or one or the other. Rashi says maybe what it means is maybe it means dafka, maybe it means dafka l'sha'avar. Or it could also go both ways. So Zok Gemara, Ma'awat Salacha, Teku. The Gemara does not have an answer. What about someone said getze lo yoyel? This get should not work. Lo yater, it should not be mater. Lo yaziv, it should not make her be abandoned. Lo yishalech, it shouldn't send her away. Lo yigarish, it shouldn't be megarish her. Yehei cheres, it should be like a shard, useless. Yehei kecheres. In all those cases, dvar of kayamin, because those are all translated as being something that's in the future. That's in the future, and therefore it works. However, if you said Einei Moil, this does not work. Einei Mater, it is not Mater. Einei Maziv, Einei Mishalech, Einei Megarish, or Cheresu. Earlier you said Cheres Yehei, it should be like a Cheres. Here he's saying Cheresu, it is a Cheres, or Kicheresu, that's our lawyer Maklum, as Rashi says. Einei Moil mashma dehu einei mevatla. He's not being mevatlet. Elameid boy shu posel. He's just saying edus on this get that it's posel. But there is no psul in this get. Therefore, it's same thing with cheresu or kicheresu. Klum the chol lashonis halalu lisha overhu. All of these lashonis have a connotation of something that's in the past, but this is it's a good get. The only way to eliminate this get is to be mevatlet moving forward. What if he said harehu cheres mahu? Does harehu cheres mean laba, and therefore it would be mevatel aget, or does harehu cheres means lisha'avar, and then it wouldn't work? Zok Gemara, that I have a chloraraya from how people are makdish, because it says Amar. So Amar Ravina, l'Ravacha b'rei Rava, Amar l'Ravacha b'rei Rava l'Rabashi, my shna. What's the difference between harehu cheres and harehu hektish? That surely works. Ma'ishnam harehu hektish, harehu hefker, in all those places, avada it works. Now the Gemara is another shayla. You have the Baal who went to the shliach and it was mevatel the get. So the question is, can he hold this get and use it for a different time, or is this get completely bottled and now he has to write a new get? Chayzer umegarish boy, or einay chayzer umegarish boy. Can he reuse this get? And Rashi explains the shayla really is, was he mevatel the get, or was he just mevatel the shlichus? And that's what's going to come out in the Gemara as well. So Zok the Gemara,
that is such a get yusha.
a get yushan is only if they had relations. So Zok the Gemara, we learned you can write a get as long as you don't put the date on it. Here you might have a problem with putting the date on it. So Zok the Gemara, Choyze Megarish boy or Eine Choyze Megarish boy. Rav Nachman Amar Choyze Megarish boy. Rav Sheshes Amar Eine Choyze Megarish boy. The Hilchasa Kavos said Rav Nachman. The passage like Rav Nachman that Choyzer Umegarish boy. Let's see Rashi. Choyze Megarish boy im Nimlach Habal Lachsor Ulagarish Beget Shabitloi. Could he still use it? Or Eine Choyze Megarish. Mi Amrinan Bottle Gita. Do we say that the get becomes bottle? Like a chaspa, and now it's like a piece of cheres. All he was mevatel was the shliach, not the get. So just to focus on what Chaim said, normally you can't keep a get for safekeeping, just in case you need it, because of the problem with the date. Here the shiloh would be probably if you could be chayish or megarish boy that day, the same day that has the date on the get. So let's see the Gemara. Weiter. Is that so? We pass like Rabbi Yochanan by a case in Kedushin. And Rashi tells us what was the case in the Gemara Kedushin. The case was someone gave a woman Kedushin to be chal in 30 days, and she accepted it. But then before the 30 days came, she changed her mind. So the halacha is Chayzeres. It's mevatel the kedushin. So if you see Rabbi Yochanan holds by kedushin, it's mevatel the kedushin. So why over here isn't it mevatel the get? Zok the Gemara haki hashta. There's a very big difference between kedushin and gerushin. Hastam dibur v'diburu. The kedushin was only a dibur, right? Mekadeshly she accepts it. So yeah, she could be mevatel her expression of being willing to accept the kedushin. Therefore, also dibur mevatel dibur. Therefore, her second dibur, when she rejects him, will be mevatel her first Kabbalah of his kedushin where she accepted him. But v'hacha here, it's not just dibur. There's a document here. There's a get. Hacha nehida batel l'shlichusa d'shliach. Just because the husband was mevatel the shlichus, gita gufei mika batel. Where do you see that he was mevatel the get itself? And therefore, we don't have a right to our shiloh. Rashi in Dibur Masal Dibur v'Dibur who gives us a little bit extra insight, and he says Mitchila Hoysem Miskadeshes Al Yidei Dibur. Originally, when she accepted this kedushin to be chal in 30 days, how was it chal? Because when she accepted it with Dibur. She didn't do any ma'isa. She just said yes. Shenisratzes of the kedushin because she was willing to take the kedushin. Therefore, she could be chayzer with the same method. Asi Dibur shel chazara u'mevatel Dibur. However, Rashi says the money the money will not be bottled. If he uses that money to be mekadesher, avada he can be mekadesher again. Here it's just the dibur where she accepted the kedushin, she's being mevatel with the dibur later where she's rejecting it. Okay, gavaltik. Zok the Gemara weiter. Berishoyna hayoisa. Zok the Mishnah. He used to make a bezdin and be mevatel in front of bezdin and not have to do it in front of his wife or in front of the shliach. So itmar b'fnei kamahu mevatlei. This bezdin that they used to use, how many people comprise the bezdin? Rab Nachman Amar b'fnei beis, 2 people are considered a bezdin. Rab Sheshes Amar b'fnei gimel, you need 3 people. Rab Sheshes Amar b'fnei gimel, because bezdin katani. Normally a bezdin is 3. Rab Nachman Amar b'fnei beis, because levei trei nami bezdin karluhu. Sometimes you could refer to a bezdin. You can refer to 2 people as well as a bezdin. Okay. Zok to Gemara, Amar Rab Nachman mina minullah. How do I know that sometimes you find that even 2 people can be referred to as a bezdin? That none we learned by the Allah of Persbul, where someone is moiser shtarois of the bezdin, where he gives over his chayvus to bezdin, so he's not collecting, bezdin can collect. So he could get around shemitah. The Tnami said, Masreni lefneichem. This is the discussion and the description of how you do the Persbul. I'm giving the Balchoyev, the Mav was saying, I'm giving over this to you. And let's turn over to Naflam Gilum Amar Aleph. Masreni Lefnechem, Ploini Uploini Hadayanim, Shibamakam Ploini. So Ploini means 2 people. So you see that the bezdin being used for a Persbul is a bezdin of only 2 dayanim. So you see, Rab Nachman proved that a bezdin could be 3 people. Rab Sheshes says that's not a riot. By Persbul, of course, you need 3 people. But Atu Tana Ki Ruchla Lachshav Elezel. The Tana is not going to say if they ploini, uploini, uploini. It just said ploini, uploini, but avada means three. It's just that the Tana is not going to go through stretching it out and going through such an arichus. So therefore, you don't have a raya. Amar Abnachmi no aminula. How do I know that a bezin is two? The Tanan hadayanin choismin lamata oya edim. It says at the bottom of the star, at the bottom of the prosbul, the dayanim sign, either the dayanim or the edim. So if we're comparing dayanim to edim, my lav dayanim dum edim. Ma edim shnayim after dayanim nami shnayim. Just like the edim were two, so too it's enough with two dayanim. Perhaps sheishes midi area. Forget. How can you bring a raya? Ha chaditza v'chaditza. If the edim sign, two edim will sign, and if the dayanim will sign, three dayanim will sign. Why do you need both? The loishna kasav v'loshen dayanim, the chasmi edim, the loishna kasav v'loshen edim, the chasmi dayanim. What does it mean, loshen dayanim, and what does it mean, loshen edim? So it's Rashi. Loshen dayanim is going beidina havina. We were a bezdin, but also plenty of amar lana misrani lechem. So the text of the prosbul writing what occurred is it being written in the first person by the dayanim, and then the edim could sign it, or it could easily be b'loshen edus, which means the text could say, we witnessed this happening in Besdin. So it doesn't make a difference if the text of the prosbul is first person, the dayanim talking, or it's first person, the edim talking. Either way, either one could sign. So even if the text was the edim talking, the dayanim could sign, and even if the text was the dayanim talking, the edim could sign. Okay, we'll stop here, B'ez Hashem. Baruch Hashem, we finished Shabbos' daf. So the next time that we're going to learn will be Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and it will be on Zoom.
Yossi,
Yes.
Shabbos.
going back
Shabbos.
to the date, is there like a statute of limitations? Like, let's say, does he have to deliver it the day of the date, or let's say something happened, he was minus, and he delivered it?
No, the shliach does not have to deliver it that day. The shliach can deliver it. I mean, the date of the get could be the day that they wrote the get and gave it to him. He's not going to end up delivering it for a couple of days or even more later.
So why can't he keep it?
Why can't he what?
Why can't he keep it if he changed his mind? Why can't he keep it? For a
Why
later
can who?
date?
What are you talking about? Why can the
ball
ball keep
changes
it?
his mind. What?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
If the ball changes his mind,
Right?
why can't he keep it for safekeeping and use it at another time?
The Gemara says that he could. Well, the Gemara had a shaila. The Gemara wanted to know, was he being mevatel the get or was he being mevatel the edim? So if he's just mevatel the edim, the get's good. And therefore, he could keep it forever. But if he's mevatel the get itself, then the get is puzzle. But are you asking, how could you be mevatel a get? The get was already made properly. How could you undo it?
Right.
So the Rishonim talk about that, and some say, and I'm not saying that I understand it, but I'll tell you the words. They said, well, you cannot be mevatel the get. It's written, it's a document. But you could be mevatel the lishma. The lishma that you infused into it, you could be mevatel that. I'm not sure how that works. How could you be mevatel lishma? The get was already written with lishma. If you mevatel the get, you mevatel the lishma, it would be mevatel the get.
Okay.
Jesse, there's no 7 a.m. on
Sunday. Yeah,
you
the
said
7 and 9.
9. You
Yeah,
said
7
9.
and 9.
Oh, 7 and 9. Okay.
Yeah, 7 and 9. Okay, have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.
Good. Good.
Shmona Shmona.